Hi, everybody. Rick DiClemente with Star Self and Astrology Unplugged. Tonight, we're going to be talking about a much overlooked aspect called aspects. It's one of the things in astrology that's really taken for granted. It's not easy at all, and there's much to be taught and learned about it. Before I get to that, let me just mention that my next week I will be doing something again astrologically. And then on the 23rd, my guest will be Ksenia Moore out of Australia, who's just wonderful. And she can do all kinds of things. She's very well-rounded in Vedic astrology and Western, which is very unusual. Then I just finalized today that on the 30th will be my good friend for a long time, Christine Sumner, will be joining us, another Pisces shaman. And she's really doing some interesting things. And she's going to have the plants talking to us. So we'll see what the plants have to say. Now, I'm going to get with this thing called aspects. Because as you know, in astrology, you have a planet in a sign, you have a planet in a house, and the planets make aspects to themselves or to the angles. And then you have different kinds of interpretation, different types of charts, et cetera, et cetera. But aspects are really overlooked. They're taken for granted that you'll understand. Books talk about them very glibly. Try to say that. Say that 4 times. Say glibly 4 times. Anyhow, Mars squares Saturn, Saturn opposite Jupiter, the sun square the moon, etc. We're going to talk a lot about them, so I really hope I can help you understand, because I've given a lot of work with these things for years and years, and I do think I can help you get a better idea, okay? Number 1, we're going to talk about the 5 Ptolemaic, Ptolemaic, Ptolemy, named after Ptolemy, Ptol. The 5 Ptolemaic aspects. We're not going to talk about the minor ones. We're going to talk about conjunctions, where the planets are together, oppositions, where they're opposed to each other across the circle, squares, right angle to each other, sextiles, which are minor, but they can be very powerful, where they're 2 signs away or 60 degrees away, and trines, which are usually the most favorable. Trines are 1/3 of the circle, 4 signs apart, or 2 planets that are 120 degrees apart. Now, I'm going to give it to you from experience, all right? You can argue with me all you want. I want to see evidence before you argue, all right? Now, conjunctions are listed in the books as always good. They're not always good. They're not always good. Secondly, aspect orb, I want to put tremendous emphasis tonight on orb. If a planet's at 10 and a planet's at 12, it's extremely powerful versus a planet that's at 10 and one is at 17. The farther the orb, the weaker it gets, and you don't want them too close. You just don't want them too close. The guitar string gets tightened too tight and it breaks. You don't want aspects in anything on a zodiac, anything in your chart. You don't want it too close. Okay. Conjunctions, depending on the planets involved, conjunctions can be very good. They can be very bad. They can be both. They can be a real challenge. So your dog's getting hypnotized already. Okay? They can be very positive. They can be very negative. It depends on the planets involved. So the number 1 thing you need to learn about planetary aspects is you need to learn more about what each planet is like. What's the planet like? What does it do? What does it not do? Why does it do what it does? Why does the planet do what it does? is the main story. Oppositions. Almost always oppositions are going to bring good and bad. They're going to bring energies that are very unusual, energies that are kind of hyper, energies that can be combative, energies that can be very dynamic, and they can also can be really bad, especially if the orb is close. If you got a planet at 10, another one at 10, you got trouble. I don't care what they are. So conjunctions and oppositions are plus and minus. Squares, almost always squares lean towards the negative. There can be some positive out of a square. There can be, because it's energetic. They energize each other, the two planets. But usually it's pretty negative. Sextiles and trines, 60 degrees, 120 degrees. Almost always sextiles and trines are very good. Almost always. Trines are very, very positive, very good. And I've even seen them exact, and they're really, really powerful. This is where you pull off genius. This is where genius comes from. This is where phenomenal Katharine Hepburn beauty comes from. Phenomenal agreement between two planets are in the trines. So, tonight I'm going to be sharing with you a book that I've been talking to you a lot about for a long time, Stephen Arroyo's Chart Interpretation Handbook. This is 1989, I think. Excellent, excellent, excellent book. A must-have for beginning astrologers. It describes you clearly what the houses mean, what the signs mean. It's very elemental, but it gives you basic keywords. And one of the really good things about this book is in the last part, it tells you how Jupiter gets along with Mars, how Mars gets along with Jupiter. What are the pluses? What are the minuses? Okay. Now, as I've told you so many times, and I know I'm getting repetitive, you have to understand what the planets are up to. Why do they do what they're doing? What does the sun do? The sun energizes. It brings vitality to things. On the negative side, it brings arrogance. Nothing can touch me. The moon. The moon is a fabulously powerful, important planet. It representing your emotions, your feelings. It can be very, very powerful. It can be the source of tremendous problems if your moon's not right. You just never feel right. And you're always bitching and complaining, and nothing ever seated right. Okay, these planets they got two sides. Mercury, you find out what it does when it's retrograde, but Mercury is largely a very positive planet, except for when it's retrograde. It's got to do with communicating. It's got to do with how your mind works. It's why Geminis are talkative and they're into all this stuff. Did you find out about this? Did you find out about that? You have to find out what Mercury does. Mercury is not so much a planet that does something to another planet. Usually other planets do their thing to Mercury, because Mercury is relatively a weak planet. Venus is also that way. Very much planets doing its thing to Venus. Venus doesn't have much impact on other planets. Venus and Mars are always considered very much at the same time, because one is the yin and one is the yang. Yin is receptive. That's
Can't hear you.
You can't hear me. You can't hear me now?
It must be my system. I can't hear you.
Okay, Claudia, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. I think
Okay.
it might be you, Erica.
Yeah. Susan, you hear me okay? John? Okay, everything's fine. Good luck, Erica. Check it out on your side. Venus is very receptive. It's the yin planet. Mars is aggressive. It's the yang planet. Together, they have a lot to do with sensuality. Together, they have a lot to do with describing your personality. Okay? Yin and yang, Venus and Mars. Venus wants to get along with everybody. Venus's problem is it's too compensating, it's too giving in, it's too yielding, it's too compromising. The positive side is compromising and it's tactful and it's very pleasant. Mars is got a very good side. When you want something, you go get it. When you want it, you go get it. Now, if you're going to go get it in a rude manner, that's the negative side. So Mars can be very aggressive and nasty and combative and selfish. It can be. It can also be very good. It can be a saving grace in your chart because it gives you the ability to fight for yourself. Jupiter, as we start going on out to the planets. Jupiter is a very overrated planet. It's a very positive planet. It's known for being happy. It's known for being fun. It's very big. It wants to communicate. It wants to have fun and expand itself with others all around it. Jupiter has a real positive, buoyant side to it. It also has a very negative side, which is BSing and promising and not delivering. Think of what was that show? My Son Raymond. What is it? It's a show on TV about
Everybody Loves Raymond.
Everybody Loves Raymond. That's correct. He's very Sagittarian. Jon Stewart as an announcer. Jon Stewart, very, very, very Sagittarian. Those are very Sagittarian energies. Bette Midler, another great example of somebody with very strong Jupiter energies. Saturn's got a very positive side. It's mostly known and overblown for its negative side. The thing about Saturn is cautious. It wants to make things work out. It can be a doldrum. It can be a bummer. It can slow you down. It can give you all kinds of illnesses because it is cautious and slow and cramping and limiting. On the other side, it's what holds the zodiac together. Don't ever underrate Saturn. It's the one that holds the zodiac together. Uranus, as we get out further, the planets become stronger and their plus and minuses side become more and more wild because they're more universal energies. I'm not going into the subplanets later. I'm just going to go into Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. Uranus is a wild planet. It wants you to get out of your doldrums, quit doing things that are boring, wake up, come to life. Let's go press some newness into this, what we're doing. Let's go have some fun. Very idealistic. Negatively, it can be very chaotic, very dramatic. It can be very willful. It can be very selfish. It can just be off the wall crazy, off the wall goofy crazy. Neptune, wonderful, pleasant, powerful, underrated, spiritual planet. Very quiet, spiritual planet that rules Pisces. On its positive side, it's very loving, it's very inclusive, it doesn't count anybody out, it's always fighting for the underdog. It can be a little confusing. The negative side, it can live in a dream world, it can live in pie in the sky, it can become alcoholic, very strong tendency towards crime. Pisces people have a very strong tendency towards crime, and there are many reasons for it. It's not because they're nasty, it's just because they go off the rails. Pluto, very powerful planet. Positive side makes you very passionate, intense, smart, strong feeling, never betraying, being dedicated to others. The negative side, it can become possessive, owning what's around you instead of sharing, jealous, very dangerous, very intensely maleficent. So you have to watch Pluto because it's got two definitely strong sides, a light side, which is wonderful, and a dark side. So you have to always go back to what do you know about the planets before you can talk about what's this planet square to this planet mean. How can you tell what they're going to mean by square unless you know what each planet is like? So when you learn and your vocabulary gets stronger, the more and more you know about Mars, the more and more you know about Jupiter. When you combine it, you have all kinds of possibilities. You can automatically see why these two would get along or why these two wouldn't. Why these two planets would get along, why these two planets wouldn't. So that's what's so troublesome with aspects, because people see, oh, I've got Jupiter opposite my moon. I don't know what it means. Well, you don't know what it means because you don't know what Jupiter means or what the moon means. And you've got to start trying. And that's one of the great things about this book. This book will help you get started. What does Jupiter-Mars mean combined? Plus, what does Jupiter-Mars mean negative? So you have to get that understanding. So let's go with some examples. All right. Let's say some people have Sun opposite Uranus. The Sun is opposite Uranus, like I have. Mine is off by 2 degrees. It's pretty close. Sun opposite Uranus has several really positive qualities. Genius-like brain, mind operating very quickly, things just coming to me very fast, learning things quickly, getting up to speed on something out of nowhere. I used to go to the board in 8th grade in algebra. She would put the problem on the board and I'd write the answer. And she'd say, no, you got to write the steps. And I'd say, I don't know the steps. I just put the problem and I write the answer. And then she had to force me to learn the steps. And she dulled me is what she did. Okay. So one of the positive things about Sun Uranus is things come to them very fast. They do off the wall things like teaching an astrology radio show, internet show, being able to read a chart in a few seconds, being able to read a chart with a 1-minute break between commercials and coming back and getting started, able to calculate very fast. There's nothing magical about Sun Uranus. It just means that your brain is working ultra fast, ultra fast. I'm not making up stuff out of the blue. I'm calculating very quickly upon facts that I have already cogitated on. Now, the negative side is the Sun is a somewhat arrogant planet, and Uranus can really typify that, and Uranus can kind of blow you off center. So if I'm not careful, I can get too ego blown or too much into blowing my own horn or thinking that nobody can touch me, etc., etc. I have to watch my ego there. So when Sun is Uranus, whether it's Sun square Uranus or Sun opposite Uranus, one of the things that happens with it is you come out of left field with stuff. You just change subject, and the other person said, what day? You were just talking about this. How? You know, that's just what happens because the mind has worked me so quickly. Okay, fast. The good thing, Sun, Leo, has a lot of positive things to say about people's dignity. Uranus, very idealistic. You see how you need to combine different parts of these planets? One of the main parts of Leo, or the Sun, is that it's very dignified. It doesn't want to hear you put other people down. Aquarians, Uranus and Aquarius it doesn't like it either. It's idealistic. It's friendly. It's tolerant. It wants you to give people the best of your thoughts. So Sun Uranus can be very, very heavily idealistic. So you get the good and you get the bad. All right. I'm just going to give you lots of examples. I've got a lot of charts loaded in case we need to look at some charts. Let's take one that's real common. One that's real common. Venus is square to Saturn. Venus is square to Saturn. Or similar to Venus conjunct Saturn. Similarities. The conjunction has more positive than the square. Venus conjunct Saturn. Now, if Venus is your ability to let people in, come on and have a cup of tea. Would you like some cookies? I'm pleasant. Pleasant. Come on in. It's Venus. Saturn is, well, I'm not sure, and you better be careful. And I'm not sure. Last time he was here, did you remember what he did? And just, I'm not sure. The guys with mustaches, I'm not sure about those guys. So you got to watch out for the paranoia side of Saturn because you've got two energies that don't mix. You always start with the primary energy of the planet. The primary energy of Venus is to be charming and tactful and attract people into your life. That's the primary energy of Libra, the somewhat primary energy of Taurus, the primary energy of Venus. Saturn is not that way. Saturn is being careful, taking steps, making sure it works. Well, how am I going to invite? Yes, Erica.
So one is the hostess and the other one is the bouncer at the door.
That's a good way of putting it. That's a good way of putting it. Okay. Now, what good is it going to do me if I'm trying to be pleasant and invite you in, but this other part of me is going, be careful, be really careful, you know, watch, did he have enough money in his pocket? Do you know what neighborhood he's from? Just all this paranoia, fear, that's what Saturn's about, because it's just trying to make sure that you don't invite the wrong guy in. That's all it's doing. It's not trying to be mean. It's trying to make sure you don't invite him into the wrong part of the house, too far into the house, or too open. So Venus, Saturn people, which is unbelievable, how many thousands of people I see with Venus, Saturn. It's just unbelievable. I have ideas why, but I'm not going to go into that. On the positive side, when you mix Venus and Saturn, it makes you pretty much accountable with your socialization. Venus is how you socialize with people. When Saturn's involved, it makes you pretty steady Eddie. I can rely on you. On the negative side, it can make you cold. And I've seen plenty of it. It can make you cold or cool or a little bit standoffish. You see why? As we go through lots of these mixtures, you'll start to see the energies here. Mars, Uranus. Let's say you got Mars conjunct Uranus. Mars and Uranus. Well, you don't want these two crazy guys together, do you? You want them that close? Let's let off some M80s tonight. Uranus, I got a whole truck full. Hold on, I'll go get them. That's what they do, let alone talk about Pluto and Eris. Mars is explosive. It just wants to go get one at once because it doesn't want to be delayed. Let me just go get it. It'll be fun. You mean that chicken leg, turkey leg. Uranus is very similar. Let's not pay attention to the norms. Let's just go do it. Let's have fun. Let's open it up. Let's have a party. Let's go get it. So people with Mars, Uranus can be wild as hell. Conjunction square, I don't care what it is. Now with Bradshaw, the quarterback of the famous quarterback of the Steelers, who was a world-class Olympian in the javelin throw. Why did he throw the javelin so far? Because his Mars was trine to Uranus. Mars, Uranus, Mars, Pluto was what Ali had. You back Ali up in the corner, and you better just like retreat soon. Because it comes out with this, it's like a wham from a lightning bolt. So these two energies are really wildly powerful. Of course, you don't want them too close together. If they're square, you don't want them close. If they're anything, you don't want them close because they're just too explosive. You ever been around people that they're just blunt as hell all the time? And you're just going like this all the time, wondering when they're going to say something? That's what happens when Mars, Uranus is too close. On the other hand, you might have a job for somebody to do that's kind of daring, risk-taking, and you would give it to the person with the Mars Uranus because they're kind of crazy, but they just love adventure and let's go. Okay? Seeing somebody that can do things really, really fast. Like whenever you study the great runners, the great track athletes, the great receivers in football, you're almost always seeing a Mars Uranus connection there because it means their muscles, Mars, work really quickly. The reaction time's unbelievably fast. Mars is your muscles, Uranus is the nerve endings, the nerves snapping very quickly, fast. Negative side is the person's too wild. They want chaos just for chaos sakes. They want rebel without a cause. That's the negative side. The negative side of Aquarius is it's wild, it's unruly, it's not going to follow any rules. The positive side is the person has tremendous abilities and they can do things unbelievably fast. Not the jack of all trades, the jack of the whole encyclopedia of trades. I mean, they just can do you ever see people that just say, I got it. And you explain it to them, and I get irritated with it. I got it. Go on. I got it. Quit it. People are explaining to me, and I got it. I get so irritated. I got it. Go on. Because my mind just goes so fast. It's not a very nice thing that I do sometimes, and I have to keep my eye on it. There's other examples, hundreds of examples. What if your moon is opposite Neptune? I think that Erica has this. Your moon is opposite Neptune. Well, first of all, you got to find out what sign is the moon in. If the moon is in Pisces and it's opposite Neptune, then that's like having a moon in Pisces. If your moon is in Aries and it's opposite Neptune, that can be kind of good. Because the Neptune is the selfless side, the Aries is the selfish side. Do you see? You're constantly mixing archetypes together in your little salad bowl. That's just what you're doing. There is no way to help you with this. There's no way you can be helped with this other than study. Study lots of charts. You're going to do charts and you're going to see an aspect and say, boy, that doesn't fit that guy. You do another chart and say, boy, that really fits her. Things that make aspects really strong. One, when the sun and moon are involved. They're more important than Venus and Mars, etc., because they're more part of your essential nature. Two, when those aspects are going along the ascendant, up and down the midheaven, when they're close to those four angles, I cannot tell you how important those four angles are. As an astrologer of 44 years, I'm still learning how unbelievably powerful the four angles are. They are like neon light bulbs. You ever walk by a bar at night and this neon is there, and you get near the sign of water, and you hear the zzz, you don't know exactly what it is, but it's got something to do with the neon gas in that bulb. That's what it's like when you got a planet near an angle. And I'm exaggerating on purpose. If you got Mars opposite some planet in the middle of the second house, the middle of the eighth house, you put the same thing all across the ascendant, or the midheaven and the nadir, and you get, that's how I can tell. Yes, Claudia.
I hear what you're saying about being on the angles. And of course, I pay attention to that way more so since you started talking about it. Would you give the same weight to, let's say for you, what aspects Saturn is making, because it's your cap rising?
Yes, that's right. That's right.
Okay.
And I like the fact that you used the word weight, W-E-I-G-H-T. That's exactly the word that astrologers use when you're weighting a chart. How much weight do you give that? How much little weight do you give that? But yeah, of course, I've got Saturn square my sun. I got Saturn square my ascendant. I don't need that being a double Capricorn. I got way too much Saturn. Or if you're in Aries and Mars is rising, you don't need Mars rising. Or if you're Cancer, we're going to get back to the moon Neptune. Or if you're a Cancer and the moon is right on the angle, or Neptune's on the angle, or Venus is on the angle, you don't need it. They're the emotional planets. So let's get back to moon Neptune. Okay, so we already saw how a moon in Aries is rather favorable if it's opposite Neptune, while a moon in Pisces or Cancer is not, because it's too damn sensitive. Okay, let alone the orb. Is it your ruling planet? Is your sun and moon? Is it on the angles? Okay, well, one of the things moon Neptune does, you can just imagine in a chart of a Virgo who's known, or a Gemini, and they're known for not having much emotional depth. Well, they got moon opposite Neptune, you could just check that one right off. There's a lot of emotional depth with the moon opposite Neptune. That's why you got to be so careful. See, that's the big word of Capricorn. You got to be so careful not to go off on something too quickly. That's why I'm always telling you, your first few laps around the chart, as you're looking at it, use a pencil. And in the old days, when we drew the chart, we would use a pencil. When we would draw a square in real lightly, we didn't know what impact it had. Oppositions real light. And after a while, once you keep going over that line, over and over, that line gets thicker and darker. Now, another good example with moon Neptune. The person is so unbelievably sensitive that now they're going off into other arenas, such as Susan and mediumship. Sagittarians are not mediums, but her moon, her strong Neptune, other things in her chart make her a medium. It's mainly the Neptune in her chart. It's not coming from her Venus, Saturn. It's not coming from her Sag, Sun, or Gemini moon. It's coming from the Neptune. Now, you got somebody who's dull, too many Taurus planets, too many Virgo planets, too many Earth planets, and you got the moon square to Neptune, or the moon next to Neptune. The moon is aspecting Neptune. And it really helps. because it makes the person extra sensitive. Now, if the person is already sensitive, if they're a Pisces or they're a Cancer and they got the moon square to Neptune, oh boy, you got your work cut out because they're just getting their feelings hurt all the time. Ha, Mr. Trump. Trump's chart is just unbelievable with the bucket pattern to the moon. And he's always talking about, I'm not treated fairly, that's where it comes from. So, of course, the perfect world, the person has a nice balance. Other examples. Okay, let's talk about somebody that's got Mercury, and their Mercury is square to Saturn. And you'll read in all these books about how, that's one reason I did astrology, because my astrologer at first started talking to me about how I didn't have any creativity because I had Saturn square to my sun. Well, 25 movies later, I tended to disagree with her. Mercury square to Saturn. You cannot go off on a knee-jerk reaction. The guy's mind doesn't work very well. Mercury square Saturn could mean the person didn't talk till they were older. It could mean they had a learning disability. But oftentimes, problems with Saturn and the sun and moon are indicative of people with phenomenal success. Phenomenal success, i.e., Mr. Arroyo, because these people are so frustrated. They have to work so hard to express themselves. Mercury square Saturn. They don't know why, but they have to work so hard to say what they want to say. Hold on, please. They have to say it the way they want to say it. They can end up being tremendous at it. They can end up speaking for the White House and being extremely eloquent because they work so hard at it. Yes, Susan.
I just wondered if opposition would be the same thing.
The opposition of Mercury, Saturn, and the square are quite similar. Remember, the opposition always has a seventh house connotation. Okay, all oppositions have a first house, seventh house connotation. So it always has to do with relationships. So we know the person with anybody with Mercury opposite Saturn, I don't care what house it's in, is going to have trouble with relationships communicated. Why? Because they're taking it too damn seriously. They might end up being good, but they might end up being bad. Remember, the square is either coming to you from the bottom or it's coming to you from the top. All squares are coming to the one planet. Say Saturn is squaring Mercury from the bottom, or Saturn is squaring Mercury from the top. If it's squaring from the top, that's coming from the business world, out there in the world where mean old people live. If it's coming from the bottom, it's coming from the insides, inner emotional fear, etc. You see? Now, when Mercury is square Saturn, you can have very negative things happen to it. One time I was at a festival. I was working a fair, such as the type that mediums work and astrologers work, and people make their rounds. I was going through all my rounds, and I was talking to all these people, and I would get one person after another, and there was this woman sitting next to me that would not shut up. She was this nice lady, but she was sitting a couple chairs from me, and she just would not stop talking. And she was talking loud, and I'm trying to communicate sensitive stuff to this person. So I'm trying to be nice about it, and I say to myself, what is she, Leo? What is she, Aries? What is she, Sagittarian? None of those things. What she was Mercury, Saturn was at the top of her chart. Mercury, Saturn was at the top of her chart. And what that meant, and this takes advanced thinking, what that meant was she's so damn careful thinking and talking that she can't stand a moment of silence. She can't stand it. So her talking was to fill up the silence. Wasn't because she wanted to be heard. Wasn't because she wanted to run over somebody. It was because she was trying to keep the silence away from her because it was so painful. So you have to think deeply with these planets. You have to give them a lot of thought when you're combining them. Let me give you some examples from the book. In this wonderful handbook chart interpretation. This is a must book for, yes, the beginning astrologer. Okay, here's Saturn. Okay, here's Jupiter and Uranus. Okay, Jupiter was kind of wild, with Uranus kind of wild. We're talking about the combination. We don't care which aspect it is, just down to those two combined. Jupiter is faith and large scale future plans. They are electrified and they are expressed in an individualistic and an unconventional way. Beautiful combination of how those two planets combine. Jupiter, Uranus. The need for change, experiment, excitement is expansive and pervasive. So you can see how just combining those two planets, you can get something that's just nutso. Yeah, well, hell yeah, let's put 50 on that horse. I like the cut of his jib. Put 150 on him. Okay, better be a little careful. By the way, guess which sign has the most gambling problems? Guess which sign has the most gambling problems?
Sagittarius?
Definitely. Clearly, yes. Okay, so if the person got the Jupiter Uranus, let's take a look at this. Let's say the person is kind of rigid, too much Taurus and too much Capricorn. Then you see a Jupiter Uranus trine. Boy, that really helps the chart out a lot, Kathy. It helps the chart out greatly because here's this two other parts of them that, hey, let's roll the dice. Okay, let's get roll the dice. When the sun and moon don't want to roll the dice, they want to fix the dice, make sure it's placed right. Right? But if the person's got too much Jupiter Uranus, they are just nutso about stuff without thinking about it. They just want it because they want it. And it can be very dangerous. Okay. Other examples from Mr. Arroyo, who is he's just so talented with mixing energies together. Mercury Neptune. Mercury Neptune. You tell right away somebody that's got great ability towards psychic readings, towards reading the cards, maybe towards mediumship, also quite a tendency towards drunkenness, towards getting lost, towards lying, towards criminality. The positive side, the mental processes are turned towards the universal themes and imaginative explorations. She's just so good with his key words. That's why this book is a must. Mother Mercury Neptune, the need to express one's perceptions and intelligence is guided by idealism, a highly sensitized and subtle intellect. So you can see, a lot of times I get a chart and the person's really pretty boring. And I'll look in there the Mercury Neptune and I'll feel completely different about it because you don't come to this class unless you got a lot of Neptune. You just don't. because Neptune is the energy that takes you beyond form. Okay? If you are too form related, you're not interested in what the damn planets are doing. Okay? Mercury, Neptune are people that, you ever have people that, boy, I get them all the time. People that tell you some little dream they had, some little story they had, and there's just something about that story, and you just know it's true. You just know it is. Those are Mercury, Neptune people. That's a Neptune quality. It's not a Mercury quality. Mercury's not that powerful. Power comes from the outer planets. So Mercury, Neptune people can be very deluded, living pie in the sky. They can be wonderful artists, like what Susan does with her art and her artistic ability. And she's got Venus next to Saturn. See how Susan has a big Neptune in her chart. That's what gives her the imagination, plus the Sagittarius. But then she's got the Saturn next to Venus. So when she thinks of it, she can turn it into art. She thinks of it, turns it into it. Thinks it, does it. And it's good. It looks like what she's drawing. That's coming from the Saturn talent, plus all the years of experience. So when you're getting in a chart and you're getting your mind messed up, slow down. Okay? Let me give an example. Okay? Do you mind, Claudia, if I look at your chart?
Well, no, this is the time and place. I've come to the right place.
You got that right. If I can find, okay. Okay, for example. Okay. Now this might not be the right chart. We'll try it out. If not, we'll try something else. Okay, here's Claudia's chart. Let me get it on your screen. Okay. Now, first of all, one of the first things I see when I look at this chart is a T-square to Neptune from the moon, which is in Pisces. Now, I already told you if the moon is in Pisces and it's square to the ruler Neptune, it's really a moon in Pisces. So we know that for a Leo person, she's very, 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 very sensitive. She's very sensitive and very loving, and all the problems and all the good things that can possibly come with Neptune. Okay, so what do we see here? We got a problem with Moon Neptune being possibly too sensitive, but look what we found already. The moon is opposite Mars. You think she can't take care of herself? This is not just a pushover, just walk on me like a doormat. This moon is the same degree as Mars. 25, 27, and 526. They're off by 1 minute, not a degree, a minute. So this Mars is opposite this moon. I don't care if that Mars is in Virgo or not. That moon picks up a lot of sharp, protect me, I'm strong Martian energy. And thank God she's got that with that la moon over there square to la Neptune. You can walk on me, I don't care. Walk over me. I enjoy it. No, I don't enjoy it. And that Mars is in Virgo. Mars is exacting in Virgo. So there you see 3 planets where they work out pretty well. They work out pretty well. Okay? Do you understand that, Claudia?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. What I love to watch about aspects too is, for example, okay, let's take that one. As you grow and as you grow, when I was 17, when I was 25, that energy was, I was delusional sometimes, or absolutely, but I was also fly off the handle. And now I always remember, even now, how can, okay, so I'm having this transit, or I know I have this in my chart. This is what I've been doing, but what is the other energy? What is the higher expression of that? Because I have that in me. Maybe that's not the pattern that I've followed, but I have it in me.
Well, for example, when you have Neptune square to the moon, Neptune is really pressuring that moon to be extremely Piscean. Even though the moon is in Pisces, the moon is in the 10th house. So it's very social, it's very regular, it's very standard, it's very much the way people do things. Neptune is not that way. Now, when a planet goes over Neptune, then this Neptune gets the favor for a while. It gets the favor inside of you. You start backing up whatever Neptune says inside of you, as opposed to the planet going over the moon. You're going to get the favor up here versus that. So if Saturn's going over the moon here, you're going to be much more able and inclined to do what's practical, do what's socially acceptable. So you have to take into account what's being hit. So during oppositions, especially, or T-squares, whatever it's hitting is the planet that's emphasizing. Okay? I told you guys about a Pluto return is kind of like having a truckload of TNT sitting next to your house. And down the street comes Mars, which is a whole bunch of people throwing fireworks out their windows. Well, you really don't want to come down your streets. You have to take this all into account as you're reading. But you saw in your diagram there, the incredible thing about yours is how close the Mars moon is. Now, I don't care what anybody says. Mars moon is too close. It's too close. Now, let's think about this. The moon is in Pisces. The Mars is in Virgo. The Mars in Virgo is what really helps you at your business, and you're good at your work, and people like you, and you like your work. Okay. Now, when they're this close, they get confused. When they're this close, they just get flat out confused. There's no way around it. The moon never knows when the hell I can be the moon, because Mars is always shouting at me right in my face, and vice versa. So the best thing you can do is to try to, what I call, one's on the stage singing, the other one's going to be on a stage singing. The best thing you can do is teach them a lot of duets. But they're just not going to get the chance to sing by themselves. They're just not going to. So you have to use your common sense when you start to blend these things together. So that's why sometimes I look at a chart and I see an aspect over here or T-square over here, and I just go, to me, it's not very strong. It's not very indicative. It's not being accentuated right now. And I go to another one, I go, oh, this one's on fire. Okay? Mm-hmm. Number one, if you have a lot of aspects in the chart, you're probably not going to meet that person or see that person unless one of those aspects is really being triggered right now. When somebody comes to see you, if somebody comes to see me tonight and Mercury is changing direction tonight at the same degree that their sun is, what do you think I'm going to focus on? If something's going on with the planets when they're visiting you, the Mercury changing direction on their sun tonight is the story. That's where you start with a big drill bit. Zzz. Okay? Let's say another person's got something sensitive, like the moon opposite Uranus, but it's not really being activated right now. It sure could be volatile. but it's not really activated. Whereas some other planet in your chart is getting hit hard. Then you put a lot of emphasis. When you have an eclipse over a weekend and you come into the new week and you're starting to read for people, when you have a new moon, those are triggers. You look and see what degrees did these things happen at? What did they happen at? I can't tell you how many tons of readings I do for people, and I just ignore a lot of the chart and I go focusing on what's going on now. If we just recently had Pluto 24, Eris at 24. I don't care what you had. I went to your chart and I looked at 24. I don't care if it was cardinal. I don't care for what sign it was in. If it was 24. Because those two planets are so unbelievably powerful. And I get these people going, oh yeah, well, this thing in my life is just going wild, crazy. That's why I was telling people, yeah, Rick, hello, yeah, go do it, bye. That's why I was doing it. It was like beyond reason. It's just so strong. And I was telling people, yes, go ahead and do it because there's something in you that wants to move somewhere. So just move. Just move somewhere and it's going to be much better than if you don't move. We get in so much more trouble when we paralyze ourselves, when we don't move. And look what Susan's doing. She's going all over the country now. She's slowed down with gas prices. She's having the time of her life. She's meeting all these people and all these experiences, and she's going to have a lot more, travel much more of the country. COVID's going away because she got off her butt and did it. And I didn't need to listen to her story of why she was tired of her job or why this or why that. Why I don't need to hear it. I told you in the interview last week with me, I'm hearing what's going on. The person's now moving. Now, if Susan's the kind of person like other clients that they can't sit still, and she's moving this week, she's moving next week, she's moving last week, and just always moving, and she can never center herself, then she's got a different problem. You see? So that's why when you're reading a chart, let's go back to Claudia's chart. Okay, so we see in Claudia's chart, the moon is a great big deal because it's extremely sensitive from Neptune, which is 1 degree away. So we know that you have tremendous sensitivity, and therefore, all of your life, anytime a planet gets near 5, 6 degrees mutable, go through your whole history. Go through your whole history. Solar fire can do it for you. Go look at when planets were at 6 Virgo, 6 Gemini, when they were at 6 anything, and see how this Neptune kept turning on you, changing for you, which is that ability to be sensitive to others, that ability to be too sensitive to others, that ability to be used by others, that ability to be psychic towards others. So you see how the Neptune is so critically important. Then I combine it with the 12th harmonic and I can really see why. And my moon is at 6 degrees of Pisces. So it's no wonder you and I can communicate pretty darn well. Now, what else do we see? We see the sun 6 degrees from the nadir. We see Venus 6 degrees from Saturn. We see Taurus rising. And my dear, I'm real fond of your Taurus rising. I like the Taurus rising when you got such an out to lunch Neptune. You really can. You can really
That's my
use.
favorite thing you said, an out to lunch Neptune.
You got an out to lunch Neptune, and you got a really strong grounded Mars, and you got a real strong grounded Taurus ascendant. So you see, you have to just constantly keep building and building and building. Now, I'm listening to people like Erica, all right, and I'm listening to people like Susan. And sometimes they'll say to me, well, Rick, well, what about this? What about this? Let's do lunch. And they'll say things to me like they're not real sure, but they got an idea. Well, I think that's really, really good. When you're not real sure and you mumble something to me that you're not sure, but you're thinking along that line, that's really, really good because you're starting to put your parameters together. You're starting to combine your archetypes, and you're not going to get good at it at first. You're just not. You don't have the experience. And after a while, you go, that ain't it, that's it. You'll get there. Say that again, Rip. Okay. That ain't it, that's it. That's where you'll get to that point. And there'll be nobody to argue with you because you'll know why, and you'll argue them to death and they'll leave the room. But see, at first, you have to start like you're starting, like the question Susan asked me last week about why cancers can't do this. She was given an answer. She saw where she was partially right and she was partially a little bit off. And that's what you're going to get when you're beginning. You're just going to get that. And that's why I cannot overemphasize the importance of get to know more and more and more about each planet, about each sign. It's the fundamentals over and over and over and over. Sometimes I'm with a client, I'll be there, Susan. Sometimes I'm with a client and I'll say, blah, 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 blah. The client will say, I don't think so. And I'll go, well, how about, blah, blah, blah. They'll go, oh yeah, okay. Well, sometimes I'm working on one archetype, one part of the planet, and the person, and I go fast, as you know. Sometimes the person says, no. Then I'll go to another side of the planet. Oh, yeah, that makes sense. And that's how I'm doing it. But the key here, the secret here is not to badmouth yourself, not to tell yourself you're stupid. Just keep trying. Flip to this archetype, flip to that archetype. Yes, Susan.
I've mentioned it before, but the thing that really intrigues me is family aspects. So like my dad had a Pluto sun, my mom had a Saturn sun. I don't have anything like that, but I've got two granddaughters, one with a Pluto moon and the other with a Saturn moon.
That's very, very common in families. It just is. Families have a thread of DNA that's highly alike. They have a thread of common interest, common problems, common issues they're trying to break through. But when you do lots of astrology and you do lots of families, you'll see that all the time. It happens quite a bit. And it's just because you're kind of meant to be together for a while. Do you notice how many families grow apart?
Yeah.
I mean, they're really tight, and then they get in their 50s and stuff, and they don't really have much to say to each other anymore. It's not because
Siblings.
they're cold. They just had that for a while, and then it's over with. I think.
But can you also speak to the influence of Pluto and Saturn on Sun and Moon?
Oh, well, now you're talking about some heavy stuff now. When Pluto, Saturn combines with the sun or the moon, you're talking about quite possibly some very heavy duty karmic issues. I told you in the beginning, reading a chart, things that you know, things that you don't know, things that are kind of bouncing back and forth, you're not sure, don't play with them, and other things that are karmic. Pluto, Saturn things, I don't understand it, and I don't care who the person is. Nobody understands it. Pluto, Saturn stuff is something that had to do with you while you killed this guy's family in the last lifetime, or while he raped your family. I mean, there's just all these themes of very heavy karma going on. Now, they're very hard to figure out. They're extremely hard to ascertain, to break down into uh, an accurate, solid sounding answer, because these planets are big. Pluto and Saturn are big universal planets. Saturn is not really universal, but it is in a way. But Pluto is really universal. It's the collective. It's what happened in Auschwitz. I guarantee you that 6 million people did not go through the gas chamber there and have bad charts. That's not how it happened. You go through group karma. You go through group collective karma. Nobody understands why it is. And that's why I really wanted to correct myself. I did correct myself on the phone a couple of days ago talking to Clarissa. Clarissa interviewed me last week and I missed one of the answers because I was going too fast. But she asked me about, with these outer planets and stuff, what do they indicate is going to happen to all of us when we get into a higher dimension of thinking, higher dimensions of cosmic interplay? And I forgot to mention to her, and I corrected it on a private phone call. We don't know. The answer is like Ramdas says. Astrology is a planetary reality. It's true for this planet. It's true for this solar system, but you can't really use it much beyond it. It's true at a certain level. It's much more powerful than just private personality, but it's not the answer to all these things. There's something else. And I ask you, and heavy now, if I could follow your sun and moon and Mars, etc., and come up with truths, because I can, then why can't some bigger brain follow what our solar system is doing as a unit? You see, we don't have all the answers. We know it's quantum. We know that space means nothing. We know that it works. And it's really difficult to explain to somebody. But there are levels that it just doesn't work. And those are levels, I think, where the really talented psychics and mediums come to work. When they just know stuff, you're sitting there saying, how could you know that? Well, they know it because they know it. That's why. They know it because they know it. But that's not the issue today. This is a down-to-earth, double Capricorn astrology show. So you may think I'm pretty far out, but I'm really pretty down to earth as an astrologer. I'm trying to teach you techniques that you can use, techniques that are usable, techniques that are reusable, techniques that give you formulas. Make sense? So tonight, recapping tonight, is when you're looking at the aspects and you see Mars square Saturn and you're not sure what it means, well, at least put something on it. You're driving somehow with your brakes on. Your green light is traveling with your red light. You don't have to know any more than that. Don't pressure yourself to find out the exact meaning, unlock the meaning of this thing. You're not going to get it. And then you go to another part of the chart. You see the moon next to Neptune, or you see the sun next to Neptune. Now you're starting to pick up some other qualities. And this is why you use a pencil. You go around the chart. Well, that's why almost all my readings, it almost always takes me 40 minutes to get that person. Person I don't know, 40 minutes. I don't know why, but I'm flirting around. I'm testing this. I'm asking about this. Do a little bit of asking about your parents. What did you do when you got married? What sign was he? Well, how did this aspect? I look at certain things. What happened during your Saturn return? What happened when this planet got hit? So I'm feeling around. There's never, as Claudia will tell you, I never have the same pattern with every person, it's totally different. But after around 40 minutes, I just got you. I usually just, I got it. And then around 70, it ends. It's almost uncanny. About 60, around 70, it ends. Doesn't end at 60. And after 75, people start getting really tired. They get worn out. It's just too much, including me. But after about 70, the chart says the message has been delivered. It has been delivered. So as you read, you're going to get better. Don't get discouraged when you look at something and you say, well, I think this is what it means, and you're not sure, and Rick's not there, then let it be. Say, this is what I think it means. Let it be. Don't go banking on it. Don't go chiseling it into your client's mind. But as time goes on, and you keep seeing Mars Uranus, and you keep seeing Mars Uranus, and you keep seeing all these people that are off the wall, you probably got a pretty good reason to think that they're off the wall. Okay? And it's Mars Uranus. Yes. Okay? It's
Hey, Rick?
yeah.
I was thinking about something. The moon, when it has some some aspects that are not as easy, being
Right.
the moon especially,
Right.
and then you read, then you sit with the person, you're talking to them, you're reading their chart. Do you find that there can be a lack of openness? Like I was looking at my friend's chart, and no matter what I say to her, it doesn't matter. She just is, it's like,
Is she lunar?
yes. Well, her moon is in Cancer, and
Well, the moon
also,
in Cancer means nothing unless I know more about it. But
Yeah.
is she very, very lunar aspects?
she is, and she's a Scorpio.
Okay, let's talk about the Scorpio.
Mhm.
That's one reason she's closed. Is she real sensitive?
She is, but
Is
she
she
won't let
always-
you know it.
Is she always worried about somebody attacking her?
Always.
Okay, so you got a lunar person. The problem with a lunar person is they just don't understand how they hurt my feelings.
Yeah.
And for them, it's true. We don't understand. And we did hurt your feelings. And for them, it's valid. Yes. But so what? Everybody else is getting their feelings hurt too.
Yeah.
But they don't care.
Yeah,
People
yeah.
don't care. Don't care if you're getting your feelings hurt too.
Yeah.
What matters? I'm getting my feelings hurt. I got to stop this.
Right.
That's one of the great powers of Cancer and the moon, and one of the strengths of the moon. The moon has to be that way. But when the moon goes overboard, oh boy, when it goes
Yeah.
overboard, then you got the whole family tiptoeing around this one ego. All around you see families tiptoeing around. We don't talk about that in this house. Just tiptoeing around. We don't touch this little ego here. And that little moon in Cancer or Cancerian energy has learned to manipulate and to get their needs met one way or the other. It's
Yeah.
a very dangerous energy.
It
It's
is.
it's probably the most problematic energy in the zodiac, but it needs to be understood.
Yeah.
And I've seen families where their Cancerian or their lunar person is so difficult, but there's nothing they can do. You can't throw them out. They're just that sensitive. They just are. And that's why I've come up with, a couple of years ago, I came up with this saying, and I'm really sure of myself on this one. Sure of myself. There are 11 signs of the zodiac, and we have to take care of the Cancers. That doesn't mean all the Cancers. Some Cancers are wonderfully, powerfully strong, Great businesswomen, businessmen, very strong, but in a lot of ways, the Cancer energy, I'm an expert on the 12 signs. The Cancer energy, it's new to feelings. You can't help it, but to worry about it, am I going to sink? I just got thrown in the water. Of course I'm going to sink. So it's
Yeah.
very understandable. So in a lot of ways, we have to take care of the Cancers. Now, there does come a point, and I've seen this many times, when somebody just needs thrown out. In my opinion, somebody just needs thrown out, and I'm not going to name names, but I'm going to say for sure that I have noticed that there's only one sign of the zodiac that can do it. There's
To
only
the throwing out?
There's only one sign of the zodiac that's strong enough, that's justified enough, that if they really have had it, they've had it, and they got to throw you out, and that's the Scorpios.
Mm-hmm.
I'm telling you, I've been
Mhm.
around with this. I've seen I've seen parents lose their mind over these issues. And the child is acting like there's nothing I can do about it. I don't know. The Cancer child, in a lot of ways, does not have faith in itself.
Yeah.
It just doesn't. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. Some are great, no problem. Other ones aren't. But there does come a time, and I've seen this karmically, there does come a time, is it going to be this person or is it going to be the rest of the family? Who's going to suffer? This one or the whole family?
Yeah.
I've seen it. And that's a real karmic issue, very difficult. And that's why when you have Cancerian children, it's very important when you start them off as youngsters to teach them that they're tougher than they think, to let them fall down, get up on their own, not kiss each boo-boo. It's very, very important that you do that. I had a family in Buchanan I grew up with my early years, who a young couple, and they had a child with 4 planets in Cancer. They had a little boy who had sun and moon and 4 personal planets in Cancer. And I took him to the side on the first week he was born, and I didn't scare him, and I told him, more or less, you're going to have to really be careful with this child. Is very, very sensitive, and you're going to have to, the father was a Virgo, so you can't goof on him, you can't make fun of him, because Cancers can't stand being mocked. Kid ends up killing himself. Kid ends up 16, hangs himself in a tree. They come back to me, they tell me what happened, and they want me to tell them that he was murdered and it wasn't suicide, which is a real common thing with astrologers. They want you to say the kid was murdered and there wasn't suicide. It's very common if you didn't know that. I didn't touch it. I felt bad, of course. Cancer is a wonderful energy, but it's so standalone. It's so sensitive compared to the rest of the charts, the rest of the signs, that we have to help them out. And they need extra TLC. They just do. It's that simple. Yes, Susan.
The Cancer I knew best was my dad, and he was not hypersensitive at all. He was
then on the other end, they can be really callous.
he was a Cancer Sun conjunct Pluto, and
Oh,
both those
there you go.
square Mars and Aries.
Well, there you go. That whole generation, the Pluto and Cancer generation. So your dad was more a Scorpio. Yeah, that's why. Yeah, you can't take into account those generational aspects. But anyhow, I think you've seen tonight. I think you've gotten some ideas. You just got to get better when you're starting to translate Mars conjunct Jupiter. Well, you got to know a little bit about what Mars does. And Mars says to you, says to me, boy, you know, I like Jupiter being next to me for the following reasons. And Jupiter says, you know, I like Mars being next to me for the following reasons. And that's why it's really important in beginning class that you dramatize, that you dramatically talk about what this planet would say and how Saturn and Venus says, wish that Saturn weren't so close, you know, and they kind of get on the rag about each other. So it's really a good idea to do that in your head. And that's how you can start to see, like when I looked at you tonight and I looked at the Mars opposite your moon. It's troublesome, but it really delivers a lot of good stuff in your chart too. And it's enough to make me want to look at the 12th harmonic and see where I can tell you right now, your theme through all these lifetimes has been the theme of yielding and being aggressive. Yielding versus being aggressive. Yielding versus being assertive. That's the theme in your chart. Okay, so to repeat, I'm losing my voice. So anyhow, next week will be another wonderful episode of Astrology Unplugged with Astrology and me. June 23rd will be my guest, Ksenia Moore. Check her out, Ksenia Moore from Australia. She's wonderful. She's got tons of videos on YouTube. She's just delightful. She has a huge following. She's very charming and warm. She knows a lot about astrology. We're going to talk about what's coming up in the world from the Australian viewpoint and the American viewpoint. So that should be fun. And then the next week is our next Piscean shaman, who is named Christine Sumner. I've been reading for her for a long time, and we'll see how that adds up. So everybody, go home somewhere and behave.
Do we have to?
Go out, get a bottle, behave. Don't drive.
Bye, everybody.
you,
Bye,
Rick.
Rick. Have a good night.
Bye, everybody.
Take good care and the heck with Mercury retrograde already.
That's right. 4 more hours. Steer clear of that virus too. Good night, everybody.
Yes, okay.
Good night.